Welcome to Yin Yoga. Let's take a breath. So today we're going to contemplate self-care. So yoga is a self-care practice, right? We're taking care of ourselves. But what's the mindset around that? So is it really about self-care? So I think in a yin practice it really is. In some more active yoga practices, I think sometimes we're kind of beating ourselves up a bit, just in having these goals of trying to be able to do everything. So just kind of peeling that back a little bit today and contemplating, what do you really need? And what does self-care look like for you in this moment? And so that's going to, just like everything else, right? Our poses change from day to day. What we need changes from day to day. So I'm still recovering a little bit from COVID. I still have a little cough. I'm still a little tired, right? So that's different. And just being that it's February, it's different than what happens in the summertime when we're feeling well and the days are long and there's more sunlight and we're have a little more energy typically. Okay, I'll speak for myself. The short, dark days are definitely not my high energy season. So back bend, we're going to do a back bend. I think I'm going to do blocks today and do a heart bench. But you can also use a yoga mat. So last week we did a rolled up towel or blanket. So you can also use a yoga mat. This is a travel yoga mat, so it's very thin. So when it's fully rolled up, it's still not particularly thick. But again, it's something that you can adjust. You know, you can let out some length and just have a little bit of a roll. These back bends with rolled props, you can do along the spine. So doing it across your spine where you're lying on it, and your shoulder blades. Sometimes I like my shoulder blades on the prop. So either below your shoulder blades or, really shoulder blades right on top. That's often a little more intense. So you can also do it with the prop along your spine. And so you want to leave a little space at the end of that blanket or your yoga mat. Just kind of settles into your low back. And then it lets your shoulders drop off on either side of your prop. So that's similar to using the blocks. So when we do heart bench with the blocks, we've got those blocks along the spine, and then your shoulder blades are dropping down. But if you don't have blocks, or blocks are too intense, having a towel and blanket. And so same thing, if you're doing it along your spine, right, you can still roll out some of the mat or your blanket or your towel and have that roll not be so thick. So then it just goes off to your side, that extra length. Okay, so hopefully you have something to use as a prop. But we're going to do a little bit of movement first, just a little gentle, starting to loosen up. The concept with yin is that we're doing it when the body is cold, when we haven't been working out beforehand, right, when we've been just living our normal life. So that the connective tissue can stretch rather than the muscle. A lot of times that's just way too intense. So a little bit of loosening, I think, can make the practice easier, which in my opinion makes it more effective when it's not excruciatingly uncomfortable. All right, so coming out onto hands and knees. We're going to gently round into a cat. Take a couple of breaths here. So you let your head relax down a little bit more, let your neck lengthen. Observe how that feels. So I already know my back is pretty tight this morning. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this pose. All right, so coming into a dog, some people call it cow, and letting your spine drop down towards the floor. And then head and chest, just lift up to wherever feels okay. Take a few breaths and observe, how does this pose feel? So particularly on carpeting, I can feel this in my wrists because the heels of my hands are sinking down a little bit into the carpet. So I often like this as a wrist stretch, as well as everything else. All right, then coming back into your cat. And again, how's your neck? Can you let your head relax down a little bit? So sometimes we're just flowing back and forth from cat and dog. We don't really take the time to notice how the neck is in cat. To let the head hang a little bit. And then we're going to let that spine drop down. Head and chest come on up. Alright, and then I'm going to flip over a bit onto the backs of the hands. So you can do this. If I'm up on hands and knees, I like to flip one hand over. So letting your fingertips, so you're on the palm, on the back of the hand, letting the fingertips point in towards your knee or in towards the other hand if turning this way is not comfortable. So the other way to do this is to sit back so you're not getting quite so much pressure, but depending on your knees and your quads and even your ankles, it can be really difficult to sit in a hero pose. But if you can come back here, then I might do both hands at the same time because there's not quite as much pressure, although I really tend to prefer to do one hand at a time. So if you haven't changed hands yet, change hands. Wow, my left wrist is really tight, although I have been noticing that lately. I'm not sure exactly what I've done to it or what's going on, but that left wrist is particularly tight, uncomfortable lately. All right, and then we can be able to do a little massage here. And then we're going to do a low lunge, so try to open up the hips a bit. You can always swing your foot out to the side. It does not have to come straight forward. So if it's easier, it's not always easy, especially just from having your hands down, to bring that foot straight forward. And if you're on a blanket, coming into down dog for me, I'm going to slip and slide on my blanket because I'm not on my yoga mat. So I'm just going to swing that leg out and then heel toe it in. So it's coming pretty much straight forward. And then start to shift your body forward. We're going to lengthen out the back leg. And again, feel what's going on here. If you want to have hands on your leg or you want both hands to be to the left of that right foot, how does it feel? If your hips are not so crazy tight, it used to be impossible for me to let that knee drop out. I don't think it would even move, but if it did, it was super painful. But if it works for you, you can let that right knee drop out a little bit to the right side. So you're rolling onto the outer edge of that right foot. And then we're going to shift back a little bit. So letting that heel stay forward. If you're able to do a split, you can come into a split here. So if you're loose enough, a split can really feel nice. But if things are tight, it can be a little painful and even dangerous. Tear something. So you can just rest on your heel, lean your body over your leg. So I can feel this in my back, hip too. Alright, and then to come out, we can walk hands back to the right, to the left, let that right leg swing back. Maybe give it a little stretch out behind you. And then we're going to bring left foot forward so it can swing out to the side and then lock it in. We're going to that feels good there too. Alright, then we're going to shift the body forward. So we're bending in that left knee. We're going to get the body lengthen forward. And anything that feels good for you on this side. So again, maybe you're going to let that knee drop out a little bit, rolling onto the outer edge of your left foot. Drop out to the left side. Breathing. And then we're going to shift it back and we're going to lean. So resting on the heel, leaning over the leg. Again, if you can get into a split, you can try that here. typically do dragon pose anymore in a yin practice. I used to have people hold. I've been in classes where people had us hold dragon for like 4 minutes. It's just really super unpleasant. I think it's more agitating than anything for most people experience. I used to do it for a couple of minutes and then I just really stopped doing it altogether. But if you feel like you can come into a dragon, and hold for a couple of minutes, so it's just coming into a deeper lunge, coming down onto your lower arms, you can always throw that into your practice. All right, we're gonna bring this left foot back. So walk your hands to the right, bring the left leg back. And again, maybe just extend it out behind you. Right foot up towards the ceiling, it feels nice. All right, we're gonna settle into, let's see, how do I wanna do this? All right, let's just do a little child's pose. I like to balance out my back bends with then kind of a forward fold or a child's pose. So let's just do a little child's pose here. We'll let the back lengthen out. It's okay, just starting to come into that self-care mindset a little bit more as we start to slow down a bit and settle in. The more we can tap into how we are in these practices and we'll just really work on connecting with the body. So worrying less about the movement and the pose, and even in a more active practice, worrying less about keeping up with the pace of the class and more about feeling what's happening in your body. So keep working on moving into the body and really experiencing what's going on in our own personal being. So much of the time, we're following what other people are telling us to do, what other people are telling us to do. So we want to try to personalize these practices as much as possible. So that's why I'm always saying, maybe you're going to go here, maybe you're going to go there. How does that feel? We want to really reclaim our lives, our practices. So we're going to take it into a back bend now, and that's why I've given you these options of maybe you're going to use a rolled up blanket or yoga mat or towel, or maybe you have blocks and that seems right. And on any given day, one of those things may feel right for me and another may not. So it's all about self-care. What's working for me may not be what's working for you. You're the only one who's experiencing what's happening in your body. So even with your blocks, sometimes a fatter one is more comfortable, sometimes a thinner one is more comfortable. So if you're gonna do a hard bench, you're gonna set it up so you've got one block, right, this long thinner edge. It's gonna be down on the floor, and your spine's gonna run along that top side of that long thin edge. And then your other block goes on the shorter thin edge, so you've got your head elevated. Some people can do their head hanging back and be comfortable. I don't think that's a great idea for a long period of time, but again, some people know that they're okay there, so that's fine if that works for you. It's not, I don't recommend it for a long period of time to have your head hanging back. Okay, so finding your prop. If you're doing a hard bench, you want the block to be somewhere between the shoulder blades. So how high or low I have this block along my spine will vary. Sometimes I push it up pretty high, so it's really right, the bottom is really just to sort of the bottom of my shoulder blades. And other times I have it a little bit lower, depending on how my back is feeling. So again, it's all about self-care. It's not about the pose. It's about what you're experiencing, the pose, the benefit that you're getting, and not doing any harm. Right, so the hymns up, doing no harm. And then once you're settled into your pose, it may take a moment to notice if you're really comfortable there. I think my block, move my block down a little bit today. And so your hips are on the floor, regardless of how you're doing your prop. So if you're using a towel, a blanket, or a yoga mat, again, if you want to do it along your spine or across your spine, you can choose whether that roll is going along underneath your shoulder blades, or if you're going to bring the bottom edge to your low back and lean back. So they'll be a little more similar to this heart bench position. And your feet can be on the floor, or your legs can be straight. So again, any given day, that might change for me. Cobbler's pose, I'm usually not comfortable in for very long. So I might come in here. If I had more props, I would support my legs, and then I would be comfortable a little bit longer. Yeah, maybe I'll take a few breaths here. And then arms, same thing. So arms might be in close to your body. You're gonna stretch them out a little bit. And I tend to move them around during heart bench. I like bringing arms past my head and wherever they come to, right? So if shoulders are tight, something painful, play with where your arms are going. And so even though I can bring my hands past my head now more easily than I used to, I won't usually keep them here for very long. And then you want to notice also how it changes what's happening in your spine. So for me, this becomes more intense really through the whole torso, having arms past my head. All right, I'm going to bring a blanket over me, change my leg positioning. So all of these things, self-care, right? Are you freezing cold? Are you too hot? Are you able to make some adjustments so that you're more comfortable? My mom and I were talking yesterday about sometimes I'm going to use these words, but this is what I often say in yoga is, there's just suffering in silence. So I always say there's no suffering in silence in yoga. We want to work on being as comfortable as we can be. Because that will allow us to come into a more balanced, peaceful, healthy, happy state. Observe how this is for you. Are there any other little adjustments you need to make? And as always, if it becomes too long, let yourself come out of the pose. Let your breath do whatever it needs to do. You're pretty comfortable and settled, maybe just observe and contemplate. How are you? And what even small thing can you do to take care of yourself today, in this moment, through the rest of your week? Do just to take care of you. And what do you really need? able to let go a little bit more into this pose. Oh, well, time's up already. All right. Okay. So we're going to slowly, it's often difficult to come off of the props, off the blocks. So maybe just coming onto your elbow, lean to one side. And then come on down. Your head could be on something, or your head could come down flat. And then let your back just experience what it's like to be flat now. Yeah, so allowing these pauses again, self-care, right? Not trying not to rush into the next place. Letting the body just be. And then we're gonna start to slowly make our way towards a child's pose. So you might just roll over, or you might come up into a seated position. And when you do your child's pose, again, just depending on how child's pose is for you, you can do it with your knees placed pretty closely together, or you can do your knees out really wide, like to the edges of a yoga mat. You can also do props under you. So if you have pillows, or again, you have like a blanket or something that you can roll up, if you want a little support, you can pile up as much as you want to feel comfortable in a child's pose. So I'm just going to test the waters and see how this feels. Well, I might do, my arms underneath my forehead. You'll still get a nice stretch through your shoulders that way. And again, we're looking for a bit of comfort in the pose. So I'm going to cover myself up with my blanket again. And if you need to come out of the pose and like readjust, it's a little harder to do when we're on those props in a back bend. But in a child's pose, if you feel like you need to come up and move around, or maybe you need to take your body from side to side, allow for that little bit of movement. So even though we're trying to be still, we know again, what do you need? How are you going to take care of yourself as we're just here in this pose? And again, you're letting your breath do whatever it needs to do. So it can be just your regular breath. You might find there's a few deeper breaths that begin to happen. You might choose to intentionally do a few deeper breaths and feel that expansion of the back ribs. So feel your back kind of expand and stretch out here as we're doing a bit of compression on the abdomen. The breath, you start to feel a little bit more in the back of the body than usual. And we're going to slide out flat onto the abdomen. So just come on out flat. We're going to slide it right into a half frog. So bring your right knee up to about hip height. That inner leg is facing the floor. And so you can rest on your lower arms here, or you can be flatter. And observe how it is to hold these poses. Is it hard to be still today? Is it easy? Are you feeling, like you're way more exhausted than you realized? So I think for me, when it feels really good, to just be still in these poses, that's when I realize, oh, I'm really doing a whole lot more than I'm conscious of. Or I'm more stressed, or whatever, not sleeping as well. To observe, how you're feeling and if there's any meaning in that for you. And then what that means about how you need to take care of yourself. just going to slide this leg out. And then we're going to bring the left knee up to about hip height. Just changing sides, half frog. then we're going to straighten out this left leg. And we can pass through a cobra pose on our way up. So hands below your shoulders. We're going to push those shoulders up towards the ceiling. So pulling the front of your shoulders away from the floor. And then give a little press into your hands. Pull those elbows and shoulders down. So elbows kind of squeeze into the body. And then lifting the abdomen up. Come into a cat pose. We're going to slide it into a thread the needle. So take a moment here in cat. And then we're going to take the right arm and slide it underneath the left. Let that palm face up. And then see if you can let your left hand just slide along the floor past the top of your head. Stretching that left arm as far forward as you can. So in your self-care practice too, just taking note, we're going to slide out here. So just push into that left hand, let your right arm slide out. I want to take note too of how your body is. So like what parts are, having some discomfort? What needs a little attention just in the parts of your body. So, did that feel good to do that throw the needle? How was half frog for you? All right, so we're going to bring it back into a cat. We're going to slide left arm underneath right, palm faces up, shoulder comes down. And then with our right hand, slide along the floor, reaching straight past the top of your head. And then we're going to slide that right hand back, press into it, both hands on the floor, round into a cat. Again, let your head drop. And then inhale into dog. Awesome. Okay, coming into a seated position. Let's see what we're going to do first. I think we're going to do a half butterfly. So we're going to take the feet out wide, and then we're going to pull left foot in. And feel free again, to prop yourself in any way that you need. Maybe something underneath that left leg, maybe something to lean your arms on, something to keep you warm. I'm wishing I had grabbed socks now. All right. So I'm going to do my blankie over me. All right, so feel free to change this too. If you'd rather do a head to knee pose, then legs are out straight and this left foot pulls in and you're folding over the right leg. But a half butterfly, again, feet are wide, left foot's going to pull in, and then you're really folding over that left foot and ankle. So just slightly different emphasis in this pose. All right. So where's your spot here? And you may find either it's more intense or less intense as we hold. So you may find you're going down a little bit lower. Maybe you're going to remove a prop if you're using one, or maybe you're going to back up as you're realizing, oh, maybe I got a little too far into the pose and I'm not super comfortable here. What you're experiencing here, and then maybe give a little tender loving care, a little energy of love into any parts that are tight. So again, just this idea of self-care is also about what we're thinking, how we're thinking about ourselves. So rather than being sort of critical or upset that something maybe doesn't feel good or is tight, to give a little love to that part of the body. And some gratitude for how hard that part of the body works. And we're coming up from the side. So you might like to stretch all the way back. I typically don't because then I don't want to come up again. So just come on out maybe and stretch your legs. Sometimes I just like to give that little massage. Just a little connecting with the legs. You can also lean back a bit. Rather than going all the way back, and maybe bring your feet onto the floor and a little windshield wipers. So windshield wipers can be just, little swaying, or, depending on how tight things are, it may feel better just to do a little swaying, or maybe it's a day where the legs are going to go a little farther. So we're going to take the feet out wide. And we're going to pull the right foot in. And we're going to fold forward. So again, making sure that you're warm enough. come up from here. So yeah, maybe a little shaking of the legs, a little rocking back and forth. Like just a little movement this time, kicking the legs a little bit. All right, and then we're going to take it into Shavasana. So if you had a rolled up blanket or towel or yoga mat or another prop, pillow, you might do that under your knees or even have your legs somewhat elevated. Sometimes I have this little footstool. So it's relatively low, or just this, like the seat of a dining room chair, that kind of height. It can be nice to bring your lower legs up. You want it to come, to where your knees can be comfortable. This one's pretty low. So a dining room chair or a folding chair, probably a little bit higher. But you want it to be so that your lower legs can rest in it and you're not with your feet so high up. So if you have something, anything at all, just to elevate your lower legs or again, put under your knees to make your low back a little more comfortable. I find having my legs up is also just a super relaxing position to be in. But I wrapped my blanket around my feet so my toes can warm up a little bit. Then you want your neck to be comfortable and trying to get your whole body to be warm enough. Any little wiggling, tucking the shoulders under, and maybe a nice full breath. Imagine yourself any place at all that feels peaceful, restorative to you. Imagine yourself there. Take a deeper breath. Notice how you are. And then set an intention for whatever you want your self-care to be this week. So maybe it's just, a couple minutes a day. Maybe there's something in particular that you'd like to do as a way of taking care of yourself today, this week. Set that intention and then visualize yourself doing that practice. And then just on your back, bend your knees, roll to one side. Slowly make your way up into a seated position. Then we're going to bring hands to the heart. So maybe just thanking yourself. Hands on the heart, hands out the heart. Just thank yourself for taking this time to take care of yourself. A little time for self-care. Nice full inhale. Exhale it out. Thank you for being here and sharing in this self-care practice today. Namaste.